All right, and we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we are going to get into the Raiders upsetting the Ravens in Baltimore 26 to 23. Gardner Minshew again pulling off another upset in Baltimore against the Ravens. Because last year he did it with the Colts. And I just wanted to show you guys. So this is the comparison between the two performances. Last year he did it as a member of the Indianapolis Colts, and this year, of course, he's doing it as a member of the Raiders here. So this is the comparison. Again, like the stats don't really jump out at you, but I just thought it would be funny to just show you. Well, unless you're a Ravens fan, the Gardner Minshew statistics for those two games. Now, last year it was a game in overtime. Early on in the season, I think it was week 3, but yeah. So he went 27 to 44, one touchdown, 227 yards, no interceptions, and had a passer rating of 82.3. And then, had a better game here. Although he did have an interception, he went 30 to 38 for one touchdown, 276 yards, one interception, and a passer rating of 94.7. So yeah, those are Minshew's stats for the game. Now I'm not going to say Minshew is the main reason why the Raiders won this game, but I just figured bring it up because again, like I talked about with Kirk Cousins and the Eagles and him playing well last year, but they lost, and I'm not going to pick him in this game to win. It was the same thing here. I was like, can Gardner Minshew pull off another upset in Baltimore? I was like, I don't think so, and that's what happened. So to go through the game here. So the Raiders punted to start the game. 3 plays, -8 yards. So it didn't get off to a great start. Actually, they punted on their first 3 possessions. The Ravens, they kicked a field goal on their first possession. Justin Tucker kicked a 48-yard field goal to make it 3-0. Then the Raiders, their drive after the first quarter, they ended up turning that into a field goal drive. Daniel Carlson from 53 yards out to make it 3-3. Then the Ravens, they answered with the field goal drive to make it 6-3. Justin Tucker from 42 yards out to make it, like I said, 6-3. Then Gardner Minshew threw a pick. Ravens, it looked like they were going to cash in. Justin Tucker, though, missed a 56-yard field goal, and missed one last week against the Chiefs. That's not good. That's not a good sign for Justin Tucker, who's one of the greatest kickers of all time, if not the greatest kicker of all time. Then the Raiders, they answered with a field goal of their own to make it, to tie the game. This was a 51-yarder from Daniel Carlson. And then before the end of the first half, the Ravens, they answered with the field goal, Justin Tucker from 32 yards out. It's the long field goals that Justin Tucker has seemed to have a problem with. So, yeah, 9-6 at the half. And then the Ravens, they opened up the third quarter, 6 plays, 70 yards, 3 minutes, 18 seconds of time of possession. Some chunk plays, Justice Hill, 14-yard run. Lamar Jackson connected with Mark Andrews for 16 yards. A 29-yard run by Derrick Henry, and then Lamar Jackson connected with Zay Flowers for an 8-yard touchdown. So it was a 10-point game at that point, and you thought, the Ravens are going to run away with this thing. Because then the Raiders, on their next drive, they turned it over on downs. However, Lamar Jackson then threw an interception, which was intended for Rashad Bateman, and the Raiders cashed in and scored a touchdown on that. Big play in the game, 3rd and 8 from the Ravens' 28-yard line. Minshew connected with Brock Bowers for a 27-yard reception, and then Alexander Mattison scored a rushing touchdown from 1 yard out to make it 16-13. But then the Ravens responded. They scored a touchdown. Derrick Henry, another rushing touchdown for him. That made it 23-13. And then you thought, okay, the Ravens should win this game, right? Not the case. As in the fourth quarter, Raiders put together a drive to make it 23-13 or 23-16. Daniel Carlson another field goal. The Ravens punted, and then the Raiders put together a touchdown drive. Minshew connected with Devontae Adams on a 1-yard touchdown to tie the game. And the Ravens punted, and then the Raiders put together another field goal drive. Daniel Carlson from 38 yards out to make it 26-23. And then the Ravens had one more possession. And it looked like Lamar Jackson was going to run it all the way to the end zone. But he ended up lateraling it to Justice Hill, and then Justice Hill threw an illegal forward pass. So there was a penalty on the last play of the game. But yeah, when Lamar took off with it, you thought, "Oh man, is he gonna do it?" But that ended up not happening, and the Raiders get the win. They did not run the ball well. 27 yards rushing in this game. Devontae Adams was a beast in this game. 9 receptions for 110 yards and a touchdown. Still one of the best receivers in the NFL. Brock Bowers, the rookie tight end, had a good game here. 9 receptions for 98 yards. Jacoby Myers had 4 for 29. The interception was by Robert Spillane off of Jackson. Max Crosby had 2 sacks in the game. That was what the Raiders had as a whole. And then as for the Ravens, Lamar Jackson went 21 of 34 for 247 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Derrick Henry had 84 yards on the ground and a touchdown on 18 carries. Zay Flowers, 7 receptions for 91 yards and a touchdown. Mark Andrews got more involved this week, 4 receptions for 51 yards in this game. Isaiah Likely only had 2 for 26. Marlon Humphrey had an interception in this game, and the Ravens had 5 sacks in this game off of Minshew. But it wasn't enough. Justin Tucker went 3 for 4 on field goals. He makes that one earlier in the game. This game goes to overtime, and maybe things go a little bit differently. But, yeah, the Ravens lose the game. And, now they're 0-2. And I think I think this was what it was. So, Lamar Jackson is the first reigning MVP. Him and his team have started off 0-2. He's the first reigning MVP to start off 0-2 since, I think, 2002. I think that's what it was. So, yeah, it's not a good start for the Ravens. There's no excuse. You have a 10-point lead at home, and you blow it. That's just unacceptable. And, they're going to have to figure things out. But, and there's already people, one of my coworkers already talking about, well, not already, but has been saying that, and Ravens fans too, they let Mike McDonald walk. And many people are saying that they should have let Harbaugh go and promoted him to be the head coach. And that didn't happen. So, who knows what happens with this season. I still think the Ravens are going to be one of those teams that, makes the playoffs. I had them making the playoffs, as we all did. Many people have them going to the Super Bowl. So, they started off 0-2, but I think they're going to be okay. They're going to get things right. Now they're playing the Cowboys. That's a big game for both teams. Really is. More so for the Ravens because they're 0-2. They don't want to go to 0-3. Then that would be disastrous. But, you look at it's funny. You look at the AFC North right now. The Steelers are 2-0. The Browns are 1-1 and they got the win against Jacksonville, and we'll get to that game as well. After their disastrous Week 1 performance against the Cowboys, but they're 1-1. And then the two teams that I had, finishing at the top of the division, the Bengals and the Ravens, they're both 0-2. So, it's still early. We'll get into. I'm going to talk about, like I said, I'm going to talk about all the 0-2 teams tomorrow, in a segment. But I'm not worried about the Ravens. But this is what they do though. Sometimes they drop games that they shouldn't drop. Last year it was kind of the same thing. Gardner Minshew's a starter. Colts on the road in Baltimore, and the Ravens lose that game. That's a game that they should have won. And this game here is a game they should have won. Especially because, they had a 10-point lead. No excuse there. So, they got to figure it out. Like I said, they got the Cowboys coming up. It's going to be a tough game. But, yeah, what's going on? And Isaiah Likely was, this close from scoring a touchdown last week against the Chiefs. And who knows, if the Ravens go for 2 and get it, then things look a little bit different. But right now they're 0-2, and this is what it is. This is the reality. So they're going to have to, like I said, they're going to have to figure things out. So, Diggs, BTW1 is in the chat saying hello, what's going on? He was in here the other day. Yeah, and as for the Raiders, it's a big win. This is a big win. Credit to them. They take on the Panthers this week. The Raiders, I looking at them going into the year, I don't think they're going to be bad, but they're not going to be good. Um, I still think they're kind of finishing around with the same record. I mean, they're going to have to find a running game because they have good pass catchers. Devontae Adams. Now you see Brock Bowers. He had a good game. Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker. I mean, they have playmakers on this offense. It's just the running game with Zamir White and Alexander Madison. That's a little bit of a problem. And you see what Josh Jacobs did for the Packers, on Sunday. Imagine having that in this offense right now. But no, they let him go. So we'll see if they can improve this running game. But Max Crosby got 2 sacks in the game for them. Like I said, that's a big win for them. And now they got the Panthers, which is at home, which, well, it's their home opener. It's a very winnable game. But now with Andy Dalton starting, it's going to be a little bit tougher. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But disappointing loss for the Ravens, but give props to the Raiders for hanging in there and coming back. And Minshew once again beating the Ravens 2 years in a row. So if he's on another team next year and they're playing in Baltimore, I'm not going to make that same mistake. I'm going to take him. But what's going to happen? If that does happen, I will pick Minshew, and then he'll end up losing. Because that's how it goes. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, though, about the game. What were your thoughts from it? So when we come back from our final break of the show, we'll talk about another game. It was low scoring. I'll get into the specifics of it. The Texans and the Bears. So obviously these two teams met in August for the Hall of Fame game. But now they met once again on Sunday night to conclude the Sunday slate. And there's some things to talk about. Quarterback performances and things like that. And also the defenses. Got to give credit to the defenses as well. So that is what we will get into when we come back from our final break of the show. Still got a lot to cover this week, though, with all the week 1 matchups. There's still some that I wanted to get to that we're not going to get a chance to get to today, but more will be talked about tomorrow. And then a little bit on Thursday as well, because there was so much news that broke, with the injuries and obviously Bryce Young being benched, making news. There was a lot. So yeah, that's why I had to hold off on doing more recaps for today. But we're getting into them. So yeah, that is what we will get into. We'll talk about the Sunday night game when we come back from our final break of the show here. So for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.